Hello, everyone. Uh, hello, everybody. Sorry, can I grab everyone's attention, please? Sorry. Shh, a little bit of hush. Had your fun? Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second annual Game Workers Group Up event for Melbourne International Games Week. Before we begin, I would like to welcome Wurundjeri man Daniel Ross to the stage to welcome us to country.
I had this bright idea that I was going to move my car. I was dry a minute ago. Welcome to Melbourne. Nah. My name's Daniel Ross and I'm a proud Wurundjeri man. And some of you might have saw me last year. We'll change it a little bit, I promise. Bunjil is our creator, the wedge-tailed eagle. Bunjil created everything we see, from the stars in the sky to the roots of the trees in the ground. Bunjil taught us some of those traditional laws on how to listen, how to care. But it's 2023, right? How do those things that happened at the beginning of time matter now? We've got a season called Porneet. It closely aligns with spring, you see. We've got 6 seasons, not 4. And this year I was extreme, you see, because the wattle was a month early when it bloomed. When the wattle blooms, we pause and we check in on our old people. Last year we lost Uncle Archie, Uncle Jack. This year I had to go visit my own mum in ICU when the wattle bloomed. But there's a flip side, you see. Yam daisies are coming to flower, tadpoles in ponds. Exciting new beginnings everywhere we look. And the reason I want to talk about that is because this is that room. The flip side of Porneet, where we see exciting new beginnings every step of the way. Bunjil taught us when we could take food as well. And unfortunately my pop yells at me now. He's a senior elder, but I found the supermarket, so I don't chase food like he did when he was a little boy. But if we get away from the city lights, we can make out an emu on the horizon. And in the Milky Way, as we traverse around the sun, the emu will lay down. And that will tell us that the father's gone to nest, so we wouldn't take the egg anymore. But 235 years ago, everything we knew would change. Is it for better? I'm undecided. And I'm not going to lie, I'm a little bit stuck for words because I keep looking out behind you and seeing the Birrarung, the Yarra River. What we knew as home, the MCG, the Birrarung, the Yarra River, was like the blood that flowed through the vein of country. It gave us life, shelter, resources. We forced off what was home to places like Bolumbol and Billabong, and then eventually they established Coranderrk, the mission. Coranderrk was one of the most profitable Aboriginal missions in the country. Yet we weren't allowed to speak our native tongue. We had to learn to read and write English before we could get a paycheck. So as I look around the room, if you speak a language other than English, please, I implore you to teach your children, your grandchildren, those future generations, because losing language is an absolute travesty to the fabric and identity of who we all are. Uncle Billabong negotiated our first treaty. 12 axes, a few bags of rice, and a couple of blankets. And the Crown ripped it up, you see. Us natives weren't even worth that much. But at that signing were 2 little fellas, Uncle Simon Wonga and Uncle William Barak. And just as we've done through time, sharing our stories, teaching our young about seasons, about the dreaming, that's how we've learnt and survived since colonisation. At the mission, Uncle Barak gave my great-grandmother the tribal name, Bullum, and it means white butterfly. And this year, there was butterflies everywhere. It was phenomenal. I don't know if that's telling me I'm getting old, but I'm noticing so many little butterflies getting around. But I turned 21 last week, I promise. A side story. No offence to millennials, but I was doing a welcome and I mentioned this landmark that I worked on called Spencer Street Station. Apparently they call it Southern Cross now. And I was an electrician on that project, and it was redeveloped 21 years ago. So I'm sticking with I'm 21, and that's it. But the old fellas had a way of knowing. That's why I say I hope I get old one day and I'm sticking with I'm 21, because Uncle Barack gave Nan the tribal name Bulum Bulum. Watching a butterfly being gentle, caring, nurturing. Phenomenal. How an old fellow like Uncle Barack knew that Nan would go on to open the first health service for Aboriginal people right here in the state of Victoria blows me away. Our connection to country and to one another, our ancestors and our future generations is phenomenal. Then there's the 67 referendum. Not that there's one in a couple of weeks, I'm not talking about that one. But the 1967 referendum, we voted yes, unanimously, over 90% in fact, that Aboriginal people were human. We weren't part of the Flora and Fauna Act anymore. I don't know how that works, but I'm happy that it's not legal now to keep us in cages as pets. Then there's my story. I started school as a proud little Aboriginal boy. I wanted to share my stories, some of which I've shared with you today, some I've shared last time. You know, we've got the Birrarung, the Yarra. We've got stories about Nam Nam, Port Phillip Bay filling up, which science now has caught up and said it actually did rise to 128 odd metres sea levels. We've got stories of Wah, the crow, bringing us fire to be able to cook. Bunju, our creator. Who else have we got? The Mopoke, the owl, the look, the protector. And there's a funny story with that. As a little kid, I stayed at my grandparents' house in Melbourne. And there was a few houses in the street that night that got broken into. Except that morning when I woke up, in the tree outside my window was a Mopoke looking over. And no one tried to break into that house that night. So there's those little laws that have tied us to our creation that we still live by. But it's about embracing those laws set at the beginning of time on how we listen and how we come together. And as I said, my first day of school as a little boy, it was horrible. I was told I wasn't Aboriginal because I was fair-skinned, because I was white. And I went home and I was broken. I didn't want to go back to that place they called school. And my grandfather, he sat me down and he explained to me the reason I was fair-skinned and my cousins were darker than me was apparently I was born in the daytime and they were born at night. But that's great as a little kid, getting through some of those hard times, having your identity stolen, stripped away, being made to feel like your family had lied to you about who you were growing up. And then I hit my teenage years. And it was only a couple of years ago, promise. And then I was always told not to court other Indigenous boys and girls. Why? What's wrong with that? And then I had to have that conversation again with my grandfather. Why do you keep telling me this? And then he explained to me, we're forced off to Coranderrk. And that was great, I guess. But from Coranderrk, it wasn't uncommon practice that we were separated again. Shipped to places like Cumragunja up on the Dungala, the Murray River, to the Yorta Yorta, to Lake Tyers in East Gippsland, to as far north as the Mulga Mission in New South Wales. And that was common practice to move Indigenous fellows around so they lost their family name. They tried to do it to lose their connection. Now us at Wurundjeri are quite fortunate, something that's been denied to First Nations throughout the globe, that we're followed around like subjects of the Crown, you see. So there's all these little journals at the State Library that we were able to reconnect with family members. And we've managed to rebuild that connection with family and know that we're made up of 3 family groups today that were back on the mission at Healesville. We've still got family living at Coranderrk. We've still got family living on the mission at Lake Tyers. Our connections are still there. And the reason I like to talk about that is because it's not just our story. It's the story of First Nations throughout the globe that have been impacted by colonisation. Now, Mitch?
Yeah.
Yeah. He asked me, did I want to stand behind the lectern, and I told him no, it was too colonial. That's why I didn't want to stand behind it. But it's deeper than that. And there's a reason that I'm standing in front of you. And it's because I see a lectern trying to welcome people into my home, my ancestors' home, as a barrier. How do I invite people into my home, my ancestors' home, with the door still closed? And that's why I like to be in front of people, not standing behind a barrier. And I'd like to pay respects to my elders past and present, but I'd like to pause and acknowledge all of you and pay my respects to your elders past and present also. Woman Jika Arundri Bulak, Yemen Gundi Bek. In a Wurrung language, I just said welcome to the traditional lands of the Arundri people. Our traditional lands go west to the Werribee River, north to the Great Divide, east to Mount Borbor, and south to Mordialloc Creek. There's a little caveat there. Now, most of the fellas here, delegates?
No.
No.
Some of them are members, some of them actually aren't members. So it's a
I like it.
mixture.
Get involved with your union. I'm a boss these days, but I was very much a unionist at heart. Woman Jika, you see it everywhere when you walk around Melbourne. And this is the caveat. This is what I want to talk about, you see. And this is what tonight is. Woman Jika doesn't mean welcome. We don't have a word for welcome. But everyone wanted to know, what's this word we can say that says welcome? It's actually broken up into 3 parts. Woman means to come. G means with. Ka is purpose. So as you are all here tonight with a great purpose, Woman Jika Nun Gojin. Thank you. Sorry, Mitch.
Hey, all right.
Took a bit longer.
No, thank you, Daniel. I really appreciate that. Welcome to country. Moving to the next part. Hello. As you probably gathered, my name is Mitch, pronounced he, him. I'm one of the community organisers at Game Workers Australia. And welcome to Game Workers Group Up to 2023. And I'll try not to choke. I'm okay. We're just going to have a few people talking today just about what Game Workers Australia has been doing last 12 months and how we're going through where we're going in the future. And to kick us off, we have Sarah.
It's gonna do it, stupid Kanye right here.
Oh gosh, upstaging me.
Yes, I've just been told by catering that really generously they've extended the time a little bit. So if you want to take 2 minutes to just grab as much food as possible on a pamphlet, on a napkin, and then we can go with Sarah.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
I'll go eat some food because I don't
Yeah.
just
alright.
like pile it on.
And I'll stand here, I guess.
Sorry, Mitch.
That's all right.
Sorry.
You saved me from like choking.
We are still live streaming.
Yeah, I know.
Oh yeah.
Hello, everyone at home, by the way.
Do you want me to fetch you some food?
No, I'm right, thanks. Actually, I'll call you.
Cheekily leave my
Yeah. This is like this is the food you're not getting on the stream. Actually, I will get some. All right. I think we're going to be starting again. So settle down, please. All right. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Hopefully everyone had some nourishment and snagged a bit of the great hash brown croissants. They were really good. Thanks, David, for the recommendation. All right. So just to restart, my name's Mitch, pronouns he, him. I'm one of the community organisers at Game Workers Australia, and I'll be your compare MC talking head for the night. And to kick things off for tonight, I will introduce you all to Sarah, another community organiser, who will go over our last 12 months at Game Workers Australia. So please give them a warm welcome.
I totally didn't just stuff my face with a lot of food. That's okay. Cool. Yeah. So for those who weren't at GCAP today, because like we were just saying, GCAP is really expensive, we did a little talk about what the union have done in the last 12 months. And we've done like a lot, like actually a lot of stuff. One of the big things that was really awesome is we went to Parliament. Like Tim and Maze and Adrian like actually went to Parliament and spoke.
Sorry, I'm going to do the Kanye now.
Yeah.
It was me that went to Parliament,
Yeah,
not
Mitch.
Tim.
Oh, Mitch and Adrian and Maze. I know people's names. Went to Parliament and actually spoke to actual MPs about games workers and IT workers and what it's like working in the industry and all the problems we face and stuff like that. And I just think that's really awesome. I also now want to go to Parliament for the union and talk to them because I think that's cool. But there's been a bunch of wins as well. The award rate for professionals, the Professionals Award, we introduced a new overtime clause into that, essentially, which will mean that people get paid better if they are working overtime, or in general will receive more compensation if they have like those unlimited reasonable overtime clauses that a lot of us deal with, which is also really, really awesome. There's more info on like PA's website and stuff like that around those changes. What else did we do? I'm trying to think. I literally gave this presentation earlier today. I didn't write down a list of things to talk about now. Hold on. No. Yes. Another really cool thing we had recently was we had a little workshop on some trans rights that some other unions had won recently. That was like a super awesome meeting. We had people from lots of different unions there. Like there was someone from the CMFEU there. Like that was kind of interesting because there was a lot of creative arts unions and then they were there as well. But some unions, some education unions in New South Wales won some gender affirmation leave, which is 6 weeks of leave that they get to anything related to like gender affirmation. So surgeries or any kind of admin or paperwork or just time to take time to transition essentially. And I think that is amazing. And I want to see it in games because we have a lot of gender diverse and queer and trans people in our industry and we should keep supporting them and make things better for them. So we've done a lot of really genuinely great stuff. I think we submitted some stuff for the domestic violence leave as well, Maze, didn't we? Yeah, there was a national change to how much domestic violence leave everybody gets by default, and the Games Union submitted some things for that in order for that to happen. And so we're just doing lots of really cool little changes like that to make things better overall. And we're not done yet, but that's going to be, I think, the next person talking about that, but I'll let Mitch introduce the next person.
Oh, yes, of course.
Yeah, I'm not.
Like,
I'll also take my snacks.
sorry. Well, considering they're in my eye line, I'll also introduce Adrian, our chief organizer. I'll let you. Adrian will talk about more industrial relations stuff that we're bringing in.
So hi, I'm Adrian Catt. I'm the chief rabble rouser. Officially, I'm the lead organiser for the tech industry, including game workers, and executive officer for that division of the union. So basically, help the committee, which is people like Maze. So, but I'm here today to talk about some of the things that we're pushing for in this next year. And one of the things, and I'm going to mention it first so I don't forget, is that we're wanting to close the loopholes. I'm sure you've heard us talking about this as a movement, right? We're wanting to close the loopholes in our industrial relations legislation so that people are properly paid, that people doing the same work get the same pay range, okay? And, you know, the employers come out and sell this crock that's going to stop people getting, you know, additional money for being a good worker. That is just a load of crock. What this is about is it's stopping companies like Qantas having people in flight crew, you know, crew cabin people, getting paid 6 different rates of pay, just depending on what their employment arrangement is. That sucks, and we want to close it down. But also we're trying to close down insecure employment type arrangements. We're trying to make sure that people can actually, if they're a contractor, actually have some rights. So the reason I'm mentioning this now is right now, that bill that the government tried to put through got shoved through to the Senate, and we're really scared that, I was going to say some naughty words, that people like Mr. Pocock will probably try and strip things out of it that we're trying to put in to improve your conditions, right? So anyone who is in a situation where you're a contractor, in precarious employment, in a situation where you're getting paid, you know you're getting paid less than other people doing the same work just because of your employment arrangement, I'd like you to come and talk to myself or Warren over there, our Victorian organiser, or Maria and Ayushi, and just tell us your story, because we're actually going to obviously de-identify you, and we're going to take those to Parliament and we're going to shove it down those people's throats. All right? So if that's you, or if you know anyone, tell us who they are, arrange for us to connect. We've got to do it quickly, so I'll mention that first. That's really important, right? And this is why it's so important to have Labor governments, to be honest, because we've all endured the last mob for a while, and the mob before that, and all they did was cut your rights. Now, I'm not suggesting that it's not good to support other parties, that's your business, okay? But we don't support that party, right? Okay, so really important that we're doing this on the legislative front. And look, Mays and Mitch did a fantastic job of taking those things to the parliamentarians. That's why we went, was to make sure that we told our stories so that we could remind the politicians what they were doing. Because when people like me go and talk to them, they go, bloody Adrian again, he's always in our ear, you know, telling us this, telling us that. But when members go, when you go and you talk to the politicians, that's real people, it's their stories, it's their lives. And that has power, okay? Albo is still thinking about Mays's story, all right? They came and filmed Mays, it was great, and, you know, I don't know who you talked to. You talked to a lot of people. I sat in the room for 2 days. I think I met one politician, because that wasn't what I was there for. But it was really good, and it's going to make sure we can close those loopholes. Now, Sarah's going to talk about EBAs in a minute. EAs are so important because they democratise your rights. The thing about an EA is it can't be changed. If you get an EA and it's got conditions in it that you've negotiated with your employer, it can't be changed unless you agree. That's pretty good. At the moment, you all have employment contracts that are based off the Professional Employees Award or some other instrument, and it lists some conditions in there. And then the company has a whole bunch of really good policies that you love and give you really good benefits at work. But someone can wake up tomorrow morning and just tear those up. They're not in your contract. You're not entitled to them. They're at the company's discretion. This is why it's so important to negotiate EAs, but I'll let Sarah talk more about that in a minute. So they're two of the things that we really want to nail down this year, all right? And the best way we do that is by you people going out and talking to your colleagues about joining the union. I don't do any of that stuff. Like, I'm working at 2 companies at the moment. I won't tell you which ones they are. They contacted me and said, oh, can we do something about this issue? Can we do something about that issue? And my answer was, no, we can't do anything about it. Unless you can get 6 people in a meeting. Then we can do something about it. Because at the end of the day, we grow around issues, all right? And so every issue in the games industry is a potential to grow the union. And that sounds a bit mercenary, and it kind of is. You know, like, I hope things go wrong so people wake up. Because, you know, like, I can use some really unsavoury analogies about what the employment relationship's actually like. And the games industry, as much as it's a wonderful industry, and I was at the Mighty Games talk this afternoon. Was anyone else there at the Mighty Games talk where they talked about how they sold out to keywords? No, but look, it was a really good experience for the employees at Mighty Games, but that's not the standard. You've got the other extreme, where there are people who are getting exploited, they're getting crunched, and all of those things. Those problems only get fixed when we collectivise, put protections in an enterprise agreement. Some of the best companies in the tech industry, like maybe let's just say an Australian one founded by two guys, and one of them calls himself is known as Double Bay Jesus, and they make a whole heap of yeah. Those sort of companies have some serious issues. And these are meant to be the best companies in Australia to work at. In fact, I think in the latest listing, that company was number 3 in the best employers in Australia. And those people get called out at 1 o'clock in the morning and they don't get any extra money. And the company would say something like, well, we pay you above the award, and so, you're not being unreasonably treated. But what happens when you're that bunny and you get called out 86 days over the year at 1 o'clock in the morning and still expected to be at work the next day? That's not fair. And so those things are the things that we're trying to put into EAs. So that's that company. It's not a it's not a games company, it's a tech company, but the issues are the same. Issues go from industry to industry to industry. When a game breaks, what happens? Someone has to fix it. Developers get abused, or QA people get abused, someone gets abused. All these things happen. Those are issues that we can organise around and we can win around. Companies have an obligation to keep employees safe, and that includes mental health and safety, and it does include protecting you from abuse. All right, so I don't know if that's anyone in this room, but if it is, we want to hear about it, because the company has an obligation under Section 19 of the Health and Safety Act, the Nationalised Health and Safety Act, to keep you safe at work. And so we need to make those companies take those obligations seriously, because clearly they don't. Okay? So they're the sorts of things that we're targeting over the next 12 months. We want to find out those issues. We want to campaign around them. We want to use it to grow this collective from 10% of the industry to 20 or 25% of the industry. And then we want to develop some super majorities so that Sarah can tell you about the great EAs that we're going to get. Thanks, everyone.
Great segue.
I also realised that I started talking about the things that Maze was going to talk about.
Yeah, we're going to keep doing that.
Yeah.
So then
Which
Brendan's
is-
going to make up a new thing to talk about.
We'll just figure it out. Look, I will talk forever about QA and about the union. Those are the two things I will always talk about. So EBAs, not a lot of people in games know what EBAs are, but if you ever worked for a big company in retail or fast food like McDonald's, Officeworks, you're under an EBA. I don't know if you read them. I read mine because I'm a nerd like that. And those are kind of outlining, all of the structural things in your workplace, your pay structures, your overtime clauses, all that kind of great stuff. A lot of us have flexible working arrangements, for example. Those aren't in your contracts, right? It's not stated there that you can work from home as much as you want to, or we expect this amount of time in the office, but you're able to work from wherever. Those things are in your workplace policies, but they're not legally binding. The company can change them.
Sarah,
Yeah?
what does EBA stand for?
Oh, Enterprise Business Agreement. Bargaining Agreement? I don't want to say business. Enterprise Bargaining Agreement. Thanks, Adrian. I definitely know what I'm talking about. But yeah, you can put a lot in them, then you're actually protected. You actually can hold on to those things, and they can't just go and change them without actually consulting with the employees first. The other great thing about EBAs is if you get a 50% of the company plus one person requesting an EBA at your workplace, they have to start negotiating one. And there's some very strict timelines that the Fair Work Commission outline for how long that process is supposed to take. If you also have that union membership of about 50% at the company, the union's team can come in and negotiate with you and for you and provide their expertise, essentially. And that's something that they do all of the time for other companies. And so we have access to those resources because we partner with PA. And I think getting one of those in games in the next 12 months would be massive, and it would be huge. Because as soon as we get the first one, other companies will be considering, is this something we need to do? Is this something we should be doing? Or is this something that's going to happen to us? And they should hopefully realize, okay, things are changing and we do need to do things differently and we do need to do things better. And I think it would be a really great step forward for us as a collective to improve things. The other thing as well, and this was mentioned in our talk today, but there is the award, and we mention that all the time, but an EBA has to be better than the award that you are under, which is great, but it's also going to clear up a lot of the confusion around at the moment about whether artists fall under which EBA, which award, and how much we should all be paid and stuff like that. If we have these EBAs at our workplaces, that can all be defined clearly and carefully, and we can all understand it and be on the same page. And I think it's just, going to be a massive win for us, essentially. So the number one thing we need first is members, and we need lots of members at lots of places willing to talk about the issues that they have so that they can start talking about, okay, if we had an EBA, what would we want in there? What's important to us? I mentioned the the gender confirmation leave. That's something that can go into an EBA. Different things like that that can benefit the people working at the company or the types of people the company tends to hire. Stuff like that. But yeah, that more or less covers it. Unless Adrian had anything else? You said some good stuff earlier. Yeah, EBAs are great. They will be very good, especially at some of the larger companies in Australia.
Thanks, Sarah. Just before we go on to the next slide, I'll briefly introduce Brendan, who will also talk about workplace protecting employees from consumer harassment. So, welcome, Brendan.
So, I don't know if anyone's familiar with how gamers react when things go wrong with your game or go with your game that they don't like. There's a particular story I want to highlight that occurred over a period of about 3 or 4 years at Bungie. So there was a community manager that, I play Destiny a lot, and there was a community manager I really liked called DMG, and he was very clear in his communications to player base. He was very transparent about what was going on, and there were some changes that the player base did not like, and then he disappeared. He announced that he was leaving Bungie, and he was leaving community management completely, and this was a guy who had at least a decade of experience doing community management. This year, Bungie successfully sued a gamer who had harassed DMG over a number of months, including sending SWAT teams to his house and other life-endangering activities. There was a large outcry from some of the gamers, but this was the first time a studio had ever, in my recollection, stood up for their employee, even if it was a little bit late, but legal processes can take a long time. And we want to see more companies take these kinds of actions, because a lot of the employees that are on the edge, like, we're encouraged these days to be more transparent. We're encouraged as developers to make it clear to the community how we do our jobs. And in theory, that is supposed to help educate them and protect us from some of the blowback that can occur. In reality, some people, some very small but very vocal percentage of our audiences reacts negatively and threatens our well-being at a minimum, and sometimes our lives. We need to see more action to stop this and to show that this is not okay, and unless we force companies to stand up, they mostly will not. So we want to start this ball rolling, and we want to see this happen. Yeah.
I'd like to share my agreeance with Brendan. Like, gamers can be so frustrating, and yeah, we need to be protected by our employers and not just under their roofs, but online, considering how connected we are to our communities. And so, yeah, hopefully we can get that ball rolling next year. All right. Next up, I'd like to introduce Maria and Ayushi from PA's Career Services, and they're going to give a brief rundown of what they can provide to our members. So, please welcome Maria and Ayushi.
Hello everybody, but I let Maria start with the... Oh, okay, cool. So it's like talk about behind the lectern so that the No problem. Is that better? Yeah. Amazing. Cool. So, of course, my wonderful colleagues are working towards all the union, very, very strict things around it to make the workplace better collectively. But also for my end, I work in the learning and development team. And what I'm doing is helping everybody to become more employable individually as well. So for me, I'm going to do all the career services for all the members, starting from understanding job search strategy. How do you then use that information to curate specific CVs that can help you land into the job that you aspire to be doing? And it also includes multiple other things like interviews and preparing for them. So there's mock interviews that you can practice doing, feel more confident when you're talking to the employers and so on. And yeah, there are multiple other things like pay negotiation, knowing what you're worth, what your work should be paid for, and things like that, and being able to negotiate those terms and conditions.
I think
Yeah.
I think what's very valuable. I can't hear. I think what's very very valuable what Ayushi provides, because she's only giving you a tenth of what she does. I think we all know that people in the Gaming Association, you guys are very passionate people, right? Is that correct? You're passionate about what you do. Now, employers, industry, they know this, right? And they take advantage of it. And I mean, for me personally, straight out of uni, I didn't know how to prepare for a performance review or pay rise. You know, how to substantiate, how to prepare, look at your, 3 months in retrospect, identify your achievements, identify key areas of development, and then put a plan in place with your line manager, present this, and move forward. So then by around April, I know most companies do April, some companies do other months. That's when you get that pay and performance review. That's where you need that document ready. That's where you need to be ready to when your boss says to you, hey, you know what, from 1 to 5, how do you rate yourself under that KPI, key parameter? We hope you guys prepare for that, all right? Now, I'd like to think that we empower you guys to know your rights, as Ayushi mentioned, to be confident enough to say, look, here's an example of this, so you know what, I rate myself 5, right? Yeah, so I think that's about it, right?
Yes, I wouldn't take too much time, but sign up so that you have access to those services. Become a part of the union, because it definitely helps us become much bigger and make the workplace much more nice for us.
Exactly, yeah.
Cool.
Thank
so much.
you.
Thank you, Maria and Ayushi. Yeah, those services are really valuable. Yeah, especially when it's very hard to get work at the moment. So having that little extra edge of knowing knowing how to present yourself, not just physically, but like in terms of your projection of yourself in interviews and applications, is very vital. So I thoroughly recommend you sign up to be part of the union, but then when you do, apply to their services, because they'll give you that edge. Now, I'm going to let Maze and Tim via video announce some exciting news.
Hi everyone, I'm Maze, and I've really enjoyed this week taking a step back a bit from the union and letting people like Sarah and Mitch and many of the comrades here. I haven't taken a step back from the union, taken a step back from the limelight, and seen how people have really taken it and gone forward. So I'll let Tim continue on that theme.
Hi everyone, welcome to Game Workers Australia's second annual Group Up event. It's really exciting to have so many people here, and I'm really upset that I couldn't be there with you. My name is Tim. I'm one of the co-conveners of Game Workers Australia, along with my stalwart comrade Maze Wallen, who I presume is somewhere down here below me at this point. I wasn't able to make it along to Melbourne this year, which is devastating for me, and obviously devastating for all of you as well, I hope. Regardless of that, we have a very important announcement to be making this year, which is that elections for Game Workers Australia's community officer positions will be opening up very shortly. What is a community officer? Great question. Game Workers Australia, like all unions, is powered by the work of volunteers. Now, it's volunteers who get everything done in every union. Although the union does have paid staff, paid officers, and some of them are here in this building today with you, it's volunteers like you and you as well, I presume. I'm pointing at the audience. Maze, please tilt me around if I'm not. It's volunteers like you who make everything happen. For the last quite a few years, since 2018, Maze and myself, along with a number of others who are far too numerous to name, have been volunteering to keep Game Workers Australia going and to get it to the position it's in now. The position where we're able to have these sort of annual group up events to bring people together from all across our industry and really make some amazing gains and kick some amazing goals for the workers in our industry. And I couldn't be more proud of the successes that we've had together and the ways that we've been able to already start changing this industry for the better together. That's why it's really important that we live up to our goals and be a democratic union that truly is run by the members for the members. So that means that we need to hold elections again to put people into these positions so that they continue to coordinate the activities of the union. To that end, Maze and myself, as the currently elected conveners, will be stepping down and we are asking you, or others like others who you may know, to nominate for those positions, for our positions, and to step up into the role of convener for Game Workers Australia and for the community officer positions that will also become vacant at that time. Only by having switched on, engaged, enthusiastic volunteers can we get anything done if we're going to really change this industry for the better. So I urge all of you now sitting in the audience to consider putting your hand up for this role. It's deeply rewarding. You'll be working closely with the staff at Professionals Australia, and Maze and I aren't going anywhere. We'll be around to help you out if you run into any issues. It's really important that we have constantly fresh blood rotating into these positions and we don't get stuck in the trap of having one or two figureheads representing the collective on a long-term basis. This needs to be something that we all take a turn on, we all have our go, and we all share our perspective and our vitally different knowledge and experience, and we use that to help create a better industry together for everyone. So I really look forward to seeing all the exciting nominations for these roles. I really hope that everyone in this audience right now will consider nominating or tapping someone else on the shoulder and saying, I think you do a great job, please nominate. That's how we got here today, on the hard work of nominated volunteers and activists and people just like yourself. So let's get it done. Really excited to have another great group up event. Again, devastated I can't be there, but I will be watching on the stream. In fact, I'm probably watching myself say this right now. So goodbye to me and goodbye to all of you, and I'll hand you back over to Mace. Thanks very much.
Great, thanks. I guess I just wanted to add that even if you are if you're unsure what you might contribute, but maybe you have some ideas, we'd be really open to hearing all about it on the Discord. Personally, I think I'm going to be focusing on contractors. It will be nice to not focus on the whole union for once. But we really, I think that we're really excited. And I'm not going to cry. It's really cool that, in 2018 we were here doing grassroots work. That last year we became part of a national trade union, and this year we're fucking off. Nah. It's just cool to see that the union is so normalized, and a lot of the reps who you'll see this week wearing t-shirts and badges. We had a meeting about, what are we going to say during MIGWA? What are we going to talk about? We'll talk about the professional awards. You have to be paid in time or money now for overtime. Can't be pizza. Amazing, groundbreaking. We're going to talk about the trans industrial rights that we're looking for. We're going to talk about EBAs. We're going to talk about all of the money that we've gotten our members back from bosses and things like that. And that's so different to what we had to talk about last year, where it was like, oh, I'm going to unionize against my friend, or what if, unions shut down companies? That's not the rhetoric anymore, We're talking about moving forward because the union's here. We've got over 10% of the industry, probably a bit more, which means that there's a member probably in every studio and maybe more members than that, which is just bizarre, and I'm not that far into this industry. I'm 12 years in, and to think about that there is support now and it's normal now, and it wasn't back then is just, I'm just like, sorry, I'm going on a bit, but yeah, it's normal now, and that's just totally surreal. Yeah.
I'd just like to quickly echo what Tim and Maze have mentioned. I've found, I think, if it wasn't for the union, I don't think I've ever would have gotten anywhere near to that kind of like getting into the industry. Like I found like my home, my people, and as a community organizer, I've found purpose and realized that, oh yeah, like there are people who are angry about the way they're getting treated, that something needs to change, that, you know, the bosses shouldn't be getting away with it, and we can do something about it. So I found my time as a community organizer so valuable, and I strongly encourage you, if you're thinking about it, do it. It's one of the best experiences you can do. You can learn so much about just community and like organizing, and like I've learned a fair bit of IR law. Sometimes it goes in one ear out the other, but it's just thoroughly recommend it. And yeah, now I'm starting to feel it a bit too. Oh god dang, tech. So yeah, if you're out and about, it's kind of been alluded in the talk. There'll be people around with this badge or other, like there's a GWA like logo badge saying proud member. We'll be out and about. Just ask us questions if you're curious, if you're not part of the union, or if you want to, if you've got some issues at work, feel like, oh, I've been doing a lot of overtime or things are changing, like come talk to us, and we're very happy to listen to you and see what we can do to help you guys organize and resolve any kind of issues that you have. Thank you so much for coming. For those on YouTube, you'll find both Tim and Noel on the chat. So if you've got any questions, the chat will be open for like another 15, 20 minutes or so. Also, you'll see there's a lot of merch around. That's fair game. So please take as much as you want. We're not asking for donations. This is not like some corporate events. There's also, I don't know. I just ad-libbed that. That's I know. Mitch giving out shade? No. Also, too, there's stuff like Pride in Protest, which is having a big rally in Sydney in November. Stuff from the RAHU, the Rental and Housing Union in Victoria.
Put your arms up, Kane and Ellie.
Yep. So.
Talk about rental and housing.
Yep. There's also even just some sick stickers and yeah, really, really cool stickers and zines to grab. We are really much part of a much bigger movement. It's not just us. Like, even just with me going down to Canberra as part of the ACTU delegation in May, we're not alone. A lot of other industries are feeling the same pressures that we are feeling. And yeah, and also to massive shout out to the tech staff here, clearing out the back and around. Appreciate the facilities here tonight. It's much better. it's good, much better to be closer to GCAP than last year. But thank you again, and thank you for the catering staff as well. The food was good. And also special shout out to the MEAA, the Media Entertainment and Arts Alliance, for all their collaborative work, as well as just a personal note, as being someone from Sydney, that they're very, very kind of rapid and aggressive kind of pushback against the screen cuts that happened in New South Wales a couple of weeks ago. I thank them so much for their decisive action to actually get the sit down with the New South Wales government and to get those cuts reversed. So the digital games tax offset the digital games rebate, in New South Wales is back in effect. So yeah, they'll only, which was scary because that was the only kind kind of games assistance that New South Wales have ever gotten in the history. So like to see that almost being taken away was very scary for me. Just quickly, there's still a few hours in the day. Membership is 50% off until I don't know what time today, but midnight tonight. So as you can see, I believe like the top one is the what standard rate is, and the below one is the discount. So please scan the QR code, and if you're not a member, and join. And also too, just a brief thing, bit of promo. If you are in South by Southwest Sydney in a couple of weeks, on Wednesday the 18th, PA and Game Workers Australia are hosting a special edition of Solidarity Sips up in I forget the name of the bar at Fortress. It's the cyberpunk one that looks like you're in the Matrix. So from 5 p.m. till 7 p.m, there is an open bar. Please come. I help organise that, so that'll be great if you are at South by Southwest to come visit us and chat. You'll also potentially meet Justine, our new tech and games organiser from PA. She'll be very keen to meet some of our members, and I'll be there as well. And with that, I'd like to... Oh, one last note. I'll get Maze and Adrian to talk.
That's just Adrian. That's Adrian. So I thought I'd ask someone else to speak about this, but we sort of got through without mentioning it. But I do want to draw attention to a really innovative service that Professionals Australia has pioneered with Unions New South Wales. And the committee that you are all part of as Game Workers has funded it to a substantial tune of money, and that's our Visa Assist program. So this is a program that we run for free of charge for members of unions to get advice on immigration matters. Now, you might think that that's not particularly important, but look, I have first-hand experience of people cleaning offices in government agencies in New South Wales. They're actually living in containers at the dock because they're illegal immigrants. So that's a New South Wales government agency is indirectly employing these people, and they were basically kept in slave conditions. And one of the reasons that can go ahead and continue on was, number one, sorry, not one of the reasons, but some of the reasons. Number one, the very punitive immigration laws that we've had in this country, where if you went and dobbed your employer in for abusing you at work, you'd probably get breached, say, for working more than 20 hours under the law, even though you were probably only paid for the 20 hours. They still made you work another 10. They pocketed that. So that's the first one. But also, a lot of our members, Professionals Australia, because we're a sort of professional union, you know, tech workers, engineers, traditional engineers, scientists, pharmacists, a lot of those people come in on skilled migration visas. They're actually really expensive to get the legal advice that you need. So we provide those services free to members. And we take matters all the way in the courts. We push, all right? This was, as I said, an initiative of Professionals Australia, Unions New South Wales. It is national for our members because we pay into the scheme. Any union member in New South Wales gets it, but there are a couple of unions, and we're one of them that have it nationally. So please, if you have colleagues that are working in your studios that are here on visas, get them to join the union, because we can help them. If they're having a visa issue, we absolutely can help them. And this is why we did it, because we get so many people have issues in the workplace, and when they come to us for help, we couldn't do anything, number one. And number two, if we did do something, they would then have border protection harassing them about some technical breach of their visa because of the exploitation they were getting at work. So whether that's, you know, a skilled migration visa, any sort of visa, those services are available free to members of Professionals Australia, wherever you are in the country. A fantastic service. I don't know, I'm not familiar enough with you as a collective to know how many of you are actually on visas, but I'm sure there's some in the industry. So please do talk to your colleagues about it, and talk to any of your other professional colleagues that you know, that might be working in tech or might be working in pharmacy, the other areas where we work. It's really important that we turn around this attitude in Australia that has existed for the last 10 years or so, and you know, that basically we're exploiting these people and that's okay, because it isn't. It isn't. And part of being union is looking out for everyone, and that's why you need to join, because you need to look out for your colleagues. All right, it's the right thing to do. You need to look out for your colleagues. So even if you're okay, there are others who aren't, and the only way we can improve things in this industry is to unionise, to get some enterprise agreements up, and then if there are bad actors out there, we run them out of town. Don't say that too loudly over the other side, because you know, we won't get invited back, but I can say it here. We run them out of town. We either beat them into submission so they do the right thing, or we close them down. Simple as that. So please join, and please do talk to your colleagues about visa assist. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Adrian. And yeah, that's it. Please do mingle around. Talk to anybody with the badges, like we've said, or T-shirts. If you've got any questions about the union or any of the wins or campaigns that we've done in the past. And yeah, thank you again for coming. Have a great Games Week. Yeah, I know. I figured because I saw you.
It was like we done through the qualifying.